I'd like to welcome everybody to the Fall Protection and Roof Safety Training from Oklahoma State University. My name is Greg Hogan with the Environmental Health and Safety Department. Today we're going to be discussing some objectives. Start off there first, conditions that do prompt the use of fall protection. Talk about different methods of fall protection available for workers. We're also going to give you a list of main criteria, basically it prompts use of fall protection for construction workers. We go on to our next part, OSU roof access. Before accessing any roof on the OSU campus, you must get approval from the OSU Facilities Management. We've listed the numbers on the screen there for you. Area code 405-744-7154. Someone's available 24 hours a day. So if you do need to get up on the roofs of any of the buildings here at Oklahoma State University, please contact them first. Talk a little about worksite isolation. Prior to the start of roof work, repair, maintenance, the crew chief, the foreman, person in charge of that particular project shall ensure that the area below the work site is isolated against entry by the use of barrier tape or by other means. If the means of egress are to be blocked by ladders, scaffolds, or other type of equipment, or to isolate below the work site, prior approval must be obtained from the Environmental Health and Safety Department here at Oklahoma State University. The other thing, too, is why is fall protection so important? Each day, or basically every day in the United States, approximately 280 workers do suffer fall-related injuries. Each year, more than 800 of those falls result in a death. Common injuries from falls include the fractures, internal bleeding, brain damage, paralysis. Pretty common to see that out there a lot of times. As we go into the next part up here, fall protection are the leading cause of deaths in the construction sites. Most fatalities occur when employees fall from open-sided floors and also through floor openings. Falls as little as 4 to 6 feet can cause serious lost time accidents and even sometimes cause death. Open-sided floors and platforms 6 feet or more in height must be guarded. Regardless of the height, if a worker can fall into or onto dangerous machines or equipment such as a vat of acid, for example, employers must provide guardrails and toe boards to prevent falls from occurring. Fall protection is required for anything over 4 feet in general industry or 6 feet in construction. Those are two very important numbers to remember there. So once again, 4 feet, anything greater than 4 feet in general industry shall have fall protection. Anything 6 feet or more in height shall have fall protection in the construction site. They do give you some different options that you can actually go with as far as determining what's the best way that I can protect or comply with the requirements of fall protection. They do give you an option of either using personal fall arrest systems. They do give you the option of using guardrails, or even a safety net is another option. So those are the three main options that a person may have. The personal fall arrest system, what they call PAFs, P-F-A-S. And these are basically the components that are going to be composed of that, include an anchorage point, a lifeline, and once again, a body harness. You must be trained on how to properly use a personal fall arrest system. That's very important. And the other most important thing is make sure that that training has been documented. On to the next part here. When stopping a fall arrest system must limit the maximum force of an employee to 1,800 pounds when used with a body harness. They shall be rigged so that an employee cannot free fall more than 6 feet, bring an employee to a complete stop, and limit the employee's maximum deceleration distance to 3.5 feet. That's what a fall system is designed to do. That's what it's designed, and it shall do that we've just covered there. How to determine fall distance with a shock-absorbing lanyard. Now, this, folks, is very important because here's what you got to figure in. Let's start at the very top up there. We have a 6-foot lanyard. That's going to be the part that's actually going to be attached to what? The anchorage point. And then you got 3.5 feet of deceleration. So in other words, we're up to about around 9.5 feet right now. you take a worker that's 6 feet in height, and then you got a 3-foot factor at the very bottom you have to figure in. So that one Pacific fall, the person could fall a total of 18.5 feet from the anchorage point itself. So always make sure you keep in mind the length of the lanyard, the deceleration length, the height of the employee, and also the 3-foot safety factor, which is going to be where the 3 foot is measured from the ground to the bottom of that person's feet. That's where you come up with the 3-foot safety factor. On to the next part, certification requirements for anchorage points. The anchorage points have specific information that they are required to entail. Anchorages shall be designed and installed under the supervision of a professional engineer in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. The PE shall have significant experience in the design of fall protection systems. Only a PE, a professional engineer, shall certify the structural integrity of the anchorage points, and the anchorage conditions should be field verified by a qualified person. When you go back and read into the standards, the anchorage point shall be designed and once again installed under the supervision of who? A professional engineer. Certification requirements for anchorage points include, before initial use, the anchorage assemblies and fall arrest equipment shall be successfully load tested at the rate, load, and documentation provided to Oklahoma State University Environmental Health and Safety. The load test shall be prescribed, defined, and certified by a professional registered engineer. According to the ANSI standard, the American National Standards Institute, some people refer to it as ANSI, qualified anchorages used for personal fall arrest shall be independent of any anchorage used to support or suspend equipment or platforms. It shall also be capable of supporting 5,000 pounds per employee, attached or designed, installed, and used under the supervision of a qualified person as part of a complete fall arrest system, which means a safety factor of at least 2. Okay, that 2, if you have 5,000 pounds per employee, that's going to be a safety factor of what? 10,000 pounds. The inspection of the system by users should always be performed before each use. Any systems deployed should be discarded. You have to come up with a fall protection plan. Proper fall protection systems and work practices must be in place before you start work. Make sure that that plan has been reviewed by the employees that's actually going to go up there and do the work. Very important that you remember that. The picture that you see on the screen there in front of you shows a good example of a misuse of a lanyard as far as personal fall arrest systems. If you look real carefully, this particular fall arrest system that this guy has on with the lanyard is actually supported where? It's actually tied off to the very bottom down here, and that's what you don't want to have. You always want to have your tie-off point or anchorage point above wherever the employee is going to be tying off to. On to the next part, the leading edges in 1926.501, Section B, 2I. The 1926 is the construction standard. Each employee who is constructing a leading edge 6 feet or more above lower levels shall be protected from falling by a guardrail system, a safety net system, or a personal fall arrest system. There are some exceptions when the employer can demonstrate that it is infeasible or it creates a greater hazard to use these systems. The employer shall develop and implement a fall protection plan which meets those requirements. Safety belts, lifelines, and lanyards. The safety belt lanyard shall be a minimum of 1/2-inch nylon or equivalent with a maximum length to provide for a fall of no more for a fall of no greater than 6 feet. The rope shall have a nominal breaking strength of 5,400 pounds. Lifelines shall be secured at the point of the operation to the anchorage or structural member capable of supporting a minimum dead weight of 5,400 pounds. One employee acting as an anchor for another employee does not fulfill this requirement. Continuation on. Talk about the lifelines. The 1926.104. Lifelines used in areas where they may be subjected to cutting or abrasions shall be a minimum of 7/8 inch wire cord manila rope. For all other lifeline applications, a minimum of 3/4 manila or equivalent with a minimum breaking strength of 5,400 pounds shall be used. Lifelines, safety belts, and lanyards shall be only used for employee safeguarding. Ropes used for hoisting lines and other purposes shall not be used as lifelines. Any lifeline, safety belt, or lanyard actually subjected to in-service loading as distinguished from static testing shall be immediately removed from employee safeguarding. Let's talk about the ABCs of fall protection. A is for anchorage, B is your body harness, and C is your connecting device. You must be trained on how to properly use your personal fall arrest system. Remember, what consists of a personal fall arrest system includes your anchorage, your lifeline, and of course the body harness. The illustrations you see directly on the screen up there, the A at the very top is going to be your anchorage point. Up here at the very top, if you come down to the B, that's going to be your full body harness. And the C portion right here is going to be what? It's going to be your connecting device right here. Okay, that's what's going to be called your lanyard, is what that's referred to as. The full body harness, note that the proper location of the D-ring on the employee. It is very, very important to make sure that D-ring is positioned between the middle of the shoulder blades, just as you see in the picture illustrated on the screen. If you get it too far down, lower towards the waist area, what's going to happen is if the person would happen to fall, they're going to fold in half, essentially is what will happen. So once again, make sure that that D-ring is positioned correctly for that particular employee who's going to be wearing that full body harness. Safety lifeline anchorages. Safety lifeline anchorage must be independent from any platform anchorage and capable of supporting at least 5,000 pounds per worker. You can reference that to 1926.502 D15. Guardrails. On a guardrail system, it shall consist of what is referred to as a top rail, which must be between 39 and 45 inches tall, and that's figured from the ground to the top rail itself. They give you a distance right there. The mid rail, once again, is going to be your halfway point, which is going to be between the toe board and the top rail. The toe board shall be at least 3.5 inches high. So remember, on guardrails, you're going to have a top, a mid-rail, and a toe board. Safety nets, where the use of ladders, scaffolds, catch platforms, temporary floors, safety lines, or even safety belts is impractical. Safety nets shall be provided when workplaces are more than 25 feet above the ground, above water, or any other surface. That is another option. Remember, that's part of your options that they do as far as providing employees with fall protection. Safety nets, protection is required by this part. Operation shall not be undertaken until the net is in place and has been tested. Net shall extend 8 feet beyond the edge of the work surface where employees are exposed, and shall be installed as close under the work surface as practical, but in no case no more than 25 feet below such work surface. The net shall be hung with sufficient clearance to prevent users' contact with the surfaces and structures below. Such clearances shall be determined by impact load testing. The mesh size of the net shall not exceed 6 inches by 6 inches. All new nets shall be accepted performance standards of 17,500 pounds. Minimum impact resistant as determined and certified by the manufacturers and shall bear a label of proof test. Each rope, the edge ropes, shall be provide a minimum breaking strength of 5,000 pounds. When fall protection may be needed, they give you different options here to kind of reference back to. If you have any type of walkways or ramps, shall have fall protection provided for those. Anything that has open sides or leading edges, or an open edge, for an example. Any type of holes. Concrete forms and rebar. Roofs is another good example. Wall openings, the bricklaying, residential construction, excavations. These are examples of when fall protection may be needed. Walkways and ramps. Here's an example right here. If you take note right here, we do have a toe board at the very bottom. We have a mid rail, and we also have what? We have a top rail up here. So those are the three types of rails that you're going to find on a walkway or even a ramp. Walking working surfaces, 1926.501 A2. The employer shall determine if the walking working surfaces on which its employees are to work have the strength, the structural integrity to support employees safely. Employees shall be allowed to work on those surfaces only when the surfaces have the request strength and structural integrity. Residential construction. In residential construction, you must be protected if you can fall more than 6 feet. Unprotected sides. Unprotected sides and edges must have guardrails or equivalent anytime that you have an unprotected edge or a side that is open within that area. Unprotected sides and edges, 1926.501 B1. Unprotected sides and edges. Each employee on a walking working surface, whether horizontal or a vertical surface, with an unprotected side or edge which is 6 feet or more above a lower level shall be protected from falling by the use of guardrail systems, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems. Improper guarding of the sides. This 1/4 inch nylon rope alone is not a proper way to guard this particular floor opening. One of the things that this particular one is missing right here is a guardrail system, for an example, or even some type of a barricade system that's going to move them back away from the edge of that particular work area. Low slope roofs, 1926-501 B, Section 10 within the construction standard. Roofing work on low slope roofs, except as otherwise provided in paragraph B of this section, each employee engaged in roofing activities on low slope roofs with unprotected sides and edges 6 feet or more above the lower levels shall be protected from falling by either guardrails, safety nets, personal fall arrest systems, or a combination of a warning line and a guardrail system, safety nets or warning line and personal fall arrest systems and safety monitors. Or on roofs 50 feet or less in width, the use of safety monitor system alone without the warning line is permitted. So they do give you various options that they do allow you to work on low sloped roofs. Skylights and other openings, holes 6 feet or higher must be protected. Holes, it's a cover floor holes completely and even securely. If there is no cover option, set up a guardrail around the hole. if you look at the picture there on the screen, that is an improperly guarded hole opening. On the hole opening itself, back up here for a second, if you do cover over a hole with, let's say, a piece of plywood or something of that particular nature, you need to write on the top of it the word hole, H-O-L-E. That way it identifies that, yes, there is a hole directly below that plywood. So once again, it is taken as a precautionary measure. Concrete forms and rebar. Use of personal fall arrest systems working on formwork or rebar cover or cap protruding rebar. If you look here on the picture over here to the very far right of the screen right here, these are what they call rebar caps. This particular one right here is kind of a square looking shape. There's different colors, there's different sizes. Different companies do make a variety of different ones. But when it all comes down to it, if you work around any type of rebar that's going to be protruding up in an upward motion, it shall be guarded. Okay? Have a cap put on it. Excavation. Each employee at the edge of an excavation 6 feet or more in depth shall be protected from falling by a guardrail system, fences, barricades, when the excavations are not readily seen because of plant growth or other visual barriers. In addition to needing guarding, this particular excavation is not properly what? Shored. Okay? So in other words, if you're going to be working around these edges right here, if you'll notice this particular opening right here, it doesn't have any type of flags, any type of guardrail systems or anything around this particular opening right here. So that is a very dangerous situation right there. Plus, there has no type of shoring inside of this particular trench area. Roofs. If you work on a roof and can fall more than 6 feet, you must be protected. In other words, they can either use a personal fall arrest system, which is normally what you're going to find on roofs like, let's say, residential roofs, for an example, or even some of your commercial roofs out there. And a lot of it comes down to is what style of roof does this particular building or structure have. This is an example of a wall opening. If you work near a wall opening 6 feet or more above the lower levels, you must be protected from falling. In other words, if you look at this picture right here, there is no type of protection for the workers. If they happen to be just walking and they can step right off the very edge, there's no type of guardrails, mid rails, or even any type of toe boards in this particular open. It's a wide open area, which means what? The employee could fall to a lower level. Good practices: perform work at ground level if possible. Try to, in other words, do as much as you possibly can while it's on the ground. Example that may be building prefab roofs on the ground and then lifting them up into place with a crane. Tether or restrain workers so they can't reach the leading edge. Fall protection is required when working within 6 feet of the edge. Designate and use safety monitors. This is the less desirable type of a system. And the other thing, too, is use your traditional conventional fall protection. Remember, your body belt would be an example. Your full body harness would be an example. Your lanyard would be an example. Once again, your engineer tie-off points. Those are all what considered as conventional fall protection type of systems. Use of hoisting lines. When hoisting lines are used to raise tools or materials to a roof greater than 16 feet from ground to eaves without a parapet wall, with a parapet less than 30 inches in height, the employee on the roof shall be secured by an approved safety belt attached to a lifeline. A safety belt lanyard shall have a minimum of a ½ inch nylon or equivalent with a maximum strength to provide for a fall of no greater than 6 feet. The rope shall have a nominal breaking strength of 5,400 pounds. Those were the hoisting lines. Weather conditions. Employees shall not be involved in construction, repair, or maintenance operations on roofs during periods of either high winds. An example of that would be when a wind advisory has been issued. it begins to lighten, or there's any lightning storms in the area, snowstorms, or any other potential hazardous weather conditions, the employee shall not be involved in that type of work up on a roof. Training. Employers must provide fall protection training to the employee. The training is to teach individuals how to recognize hazards, how to minimize those hazards. Training also must include fall hazards, fall protection systems, use of fall protection devices, and most importantly is the storage and inspection of the fall arrest systems that the employee will be wearing and using on that particular job site. Remember, if it's not documented, it never happened. These are the takeaways. These are everything we've covered so far during this presentation. If you can fall 6 feet or more, you must be protected. Use fall protection on walkways, your ramps, open sides, edges, holes, concrete forms, caps on top of rebar, excavations, roofs, wall openings, bricklaying, residential construction. That's when fall protection must be used or shall be used. There's protective measures you can actually use. You can use guardrails, you can use covers, you can use safety nets, or once again, your personal fall arrest systems is one you can actually utilize as well. OSHA.gov has some excellent manuals that talk specifically about fall protection in construction, and that particular document, that particular manual happens to be OSHA 3146, fall protection in construction. And then the other one they've got out there is OSHA 3755, is for protecting roof workers, or they call it roofing workers. These are some questions that a lot of times will come up during training classes. I did put some of those in here for y'all to kind of think about. At what height does OSHA require fall protection? Remember, in the general industry, we've covered that at the very beginning, and the magic number of that, remember, is anything 4 foot or greater shall have fall protection. But then on the construction side, anything that's 6 feet or greater shall have fall protection. Who determines if an anchorage point is safe to attach to? Well, the anchorage point is determined by a professional engineer. They're the ones that actually comes out, designs it. Not only that, but they do oversee the installation of that particular device. They're also responsible for making sure that device has been that the attachment point has been tested and inspected. Do I need to wear fall protection equipment when I inspect a roof? And the answer is yes, you do, because remember, you're going to be more than 6 feet up above. You say, well, I'm just up there doing some type of observance, whatever it may be. You still have got to make sure you have the correct fall protection system anytime you're above 6 feet on construction, or anytime you're in general industry above 4 feet. If you have any questions or concerns at OSU, who do I contact about fall protection for roof work? You can contact the OSU EHS department. I did include that information on the coming up here in just a minute. These are all the different programs that Oklahoma State University Environmental Health and Safety Department does provide. We provide fire protection, lab safety and emergency preparedness, environmental compliance. We cover laboratory safety issues, your occupational safety, occupational health, medical and surveillances, materials management, the industrial hygiene, the chemical hygiene, the safety training. All that is covered within the Oklahoma State University Environmental Health and Safety Department. If you have any contact information, any questions over fall protection, you can always give us a call at 405-744-7241, or you can send an email to ehs@okstate.edu, or you can actually stop by the Environmental Health and Safety Department. We're located in University Health Sciences Health Services Building in Suite 002, where you can actually go to our webpage, ehs.okstate.edu. I do thank everybody for joining this particular presentation. And like I said, if y'all have any questions, just please give us a call.